Ahoy, and welcome to Nautical Tales and Nature Trails, recreation in southeastern Connecticut and southern Rhode Island. I'm Will Morrissey, and I'll be your host as we explore the region. My wife, Bridget Morrissey, helps a lot of people find their way around, and she's always zipping up and down the coast from Old Lyme to Charlestown. She zigzags from Mystic to Mashantucket to Uncasville. She's all over the place, and she runs into a lot of different places that have great attractions for this area. And there's so many people coming into the area, whether it's the people building submarines or the brave souls that are driving the submarines. We got students coming in all the time for UConn and Avery Point, Mitchell College, Connecticut College. Got all the cadets at the United States Coast Guard Academy, plus all the visitors that are coming to this area. Mystic has been recognized as one of the top 5 destinations to go for vacations in the summertime. Today, we're going to be staying right here in Mystic, and instead of going on a trail like we've done with Avalonia Land Conservancy and the Groton Open Space Associations at the past shows, we're going to stay at Mystic Museum of Art and see nautical tales on canvas. And today we have with us, we've got Deb Neuman, who is the Director of Advancement at the Mystic Museum of Art. Welcome, Deb.
Thanks so much. Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, it's good to see you. I mean, we've been at each other's houses for birthday parties and holidays and all kinds of stuff, and this is kind of fun to do this.
Yeah.
But I don't know that people know that before you were Director of Advancement at Mystic Museum of Art, you had the same kind of role over at St. Edmund's Retreat on Enders Island, Holy Smokes and all kinds of things like that. And before that, traveling around the world with IBM, going to Olympics, that must have been pretty cool. But I don't know that people know that you have an art history degree from right here in Wesleyan, right here in Connecticut.
Well, probably very few people know that, Will, because it's been a while. But indeed, it's true. And it's been a funny, long, winding road that's taken me right back to probably the place that will be my forever home, on the banks of the Mystic River. But yeah, that art degree in art history was actually in film. And I remember those days very well, being in Middletown, also on the river, the Connecticut River, and never dreaming that my path would take me from 25 or more years in corporate communications. And yes, the Olympics were a great stop along the way, doing PR for IBM sponsorships, all the way to this role. I've been fortunate, 8 years at Enders Island, looking over at Fisher's Island Sound, and now I'm transported to a museum on the right bank of the Mystic River. Who could ask for more?
No, it's a nice place to be hanging out at, isn't it?
It truly is. It's wonderful.
Well, can you tell our folks a little bit more about the museum and how it started?
Sure. I don't know if people know, but I'm kind of thinking of this as the little museum on the right bank of the Mystic. It's a charming, charming treasure, and those who've lived in Mystic or the environs do know it well, and I think lots of tourists are coming to get to know it better. The picture you see right there is of some of the founders of the Mystic Museum of Art, which at the time was called the Mystic Art Association. In 1913, a number of some of the most famous artists in the country at the time had migrated to southeast Connecticut, some of them to the Old Lyme area, but others came further north to Mystic and discovered this incredible natural beauty of this area. And a number of them began to settle here, and over time developed this Mystic Art Association in 1913, and in 1914 they held their first show. But rather than me talk about it, let's look at a little bit of video about the founding of the museum. Before we run the video, I want to mention our assistant curator, Amelia Honorato, is speaking throughout, and it's a couple of years old, so the exhibit she's talking about is not on display now, but many of the paintings are. So let's have a run at it.
For over 100 years, this section of Connecticut has drawn artists from all over who've been attracted by the area's natural beauty and who ended up moving here permanently because of the community that they were able to found here. This summer, for 3 months, the Mystic Museum of Art is mounting an exhibition celebrating these founding and early members who made us what we are today. This exhibition is really about our history. And when I say us, I'm not talking about the museum. I mean Mystic itself. I'm Amelia Honorado, the exhibitions manager at the Mystic Museum of Art. Welcome to a preview of the summer's exhibition, The Founders. Charles Harold Davis, founder of the Mystic Museum of Art, then known as the Mystic Art Association, traveled to Paris. He studied briefly at the Académie Julian before taking a little side trip to the forest of Fontainebleau, where he discovered the Barbizon art colony. At that time, there was this big dynastic shift that was happening in the art community, where a lot of young artists, especially, were turning away from the traditional, very solid and staid art academy tradition. So when he returned to the United States in the 1890s, he was really searching for that same type of energy and that same type of natural beauty. And he found it here in Mystic. Davis ended up being so inspired by what he saw here that between 1900 and his death in 1933, he painted almost 900 paintings. They were exhibited far and wide to great acclaim, and he drew a lot of attention to this little neck of the woods, including the attention of Henry Ward Ranger. When he saw this amazing rugged feel that Charles Davis was presenting, he was intrigued, and he came out to Neuman for the first time in 1902. And by 1904, he had settled permanently on the banks of the Mystic River down in Neuman, Connecticut. And now we had two incredibly nationally renowned artists living in the area. And they brought in so many other aspiring artists in such droves that local newspapers were running stories imploring these artists to not wipe their oil brushes on the leaves and grass in the pastures because it was making the local cows sick. The Mystic Art Colony actually became so large, it wasn't constrained to just Mystic anymore. It stretched all the way down to the mouth of the Mystic River, which is flanked on one side by Mason's Island and the other side by Neuman, Connecticut. Mason's Island, it was where artists like Herbert Stoops, Lester Baranda, his daughter Bonnie Baranda, Garrett Price, and Y.E. Soderbergh ended up settling. A lot of folks also ended up in Neuman, like Ranger, and especially Robert Brackman and Lars Thorsen.
I'm so excited that we're going to be able to feature the Frances Brackman painting in this new exhibition.
So am I. She's one of the favorites in the collection. The reason I bring up Brackman is that he was one of the foremost portrait painters of his time period. He painted JFK, he painted Charles Lindbergh.
Do I understand that we have the dress itself in the archives?
We not only have her dress, we actually found her handkerchief wrapped up in tissue paper as well. Brackman is probably the most interesting in terms of this preview. He was not from the Mystic area, most of these artists were not, but he was born the furthest afield. He was born in Odessa, in what is now Ukraine. He emigrated to the United States as a child, ended up in New York City, and that is how, like many of our other early artist members, he started commuting out to Mystic in the summers, fell in love with the area, and moved permanently. He also taught classes out of his studio, which is attached to his home that is still standing in Neuman today. These studio classes were very well attended and very fondly remembered. We have first-hand accounts of how the local boys in town, when they heard that Brackman had a live model, used to come over and peek in the windows, because those models were often ladies in various stages of undress. So I mentioned that most of the artists in the Mystic Art Colony, early Mystic Art Association, were transplants. They ended up moving here from further afield. One of the exceptions is Ken Bates, who grew up in Mystic. His father was the local reverend, and Ken left town to attend the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in the 1920s. And that's where he met his future wife, Gladys Edgerly. And in 1926, the Bateses moved back to Mystic, back to his hometown, where the fledgling Mystic Art Association was 13 years old, and was blossoming. By 1930, the annual exhibitions had gained national acclaim. There were newspaper reporters coming from New York, from Boston. There were hundreds of guests at the opening receptions, and so it was decided that a permanent location was really required. And 1930 was the same year that the old Rafferty property, this property, went up for sale for a paltry $5,000, about $80,000 in today's money. And the reason why waterfront property in downtown Mystic was so cheap was it was literally the town dump. As the Mystic art community had done all along, they banded together to really make this a reality. So when I say the Founders Exhibition is about the history of Mystic, I mean it. Many of the works that will be on display have been loaned by private collectors, so they're not usually available for people like you and me to see. And a lot of the scenes and locations depicted are of local areas that still exist to this day. So we have this incredible privilege that Mystic today, although it has been very modernized, is still very much the Mystic that brought in the art colonists, that brought in the attention, that caused everything else that exists here today.
Well, thank you, Amelia. That was great. It's great to learn a little bit about Mystic. Every day is something new. Bridget and I like the museums, and as a matter of fact, we like taking our grandchildren down to New York City, and we took one of our grandsons, Jake, to the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You can see him here standing in front of Washington crossing the Delaware. And it's great that the children everywhere get to learn about art. And at the Mystic Museum of Art, the executive director and head curator is Susan Fisher. She's quite the artist herself, isn't she?
Absolutely, Will. Susan came to the museum as executive director about 5 years ago, pre-COVID. She had the good and bad fortune to land here right before the pandemic. But she was chosen by the board for a very specific reason. She's an artist herself, a painter, and she, as she told me when I first met her, she spent 25 years supporting herself as an artist and backed her way into museum management. So she's worked at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and prior to coming to the Mystic Museum of Art, she ran a small art museum in Taos, New Mexico. Very, very varied experience, but she's, one of the things she's best at is really very strong communication skills, great teaching skills, and the ability to think transformatively about institutions. And that's one of the reasons I believe the board selected her, because the board several years ago really made a commitment to fulfilling the vision of the original founders of the museum, which is to position it as a really top-notch, major, significant art gallery doing world-class exhibitions, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, but Susan has mounted, under her leadership, some fabulous exhibitions over the past 3 years, and so that's a little bit about Susan, and we can see her in action in this next video where she's talking about one of her favorite paintings.
Great, let's take a look.
Some paintings we love for their grandeur. Some paintings we love for the sake of the artists who create them. Some paintings we love for the pivotal role they play in art history. Other paintings we simply love because they capture something so simple, so stunning, so apparent that once we've seen them, we can no longer imagine the world without them. Such a painting for me is Nat Little's Silver Sail. This painting is all about that middle ground and the deep space of the background. Its colors are uniformly cool. They recede away from the viewer. They're beautifully modulated, but overall the palette is a soothing, receding blue. The format, very nearly square. This isn't going anywhere. It's very stable. And overall, the simplicity, or the apparent simplicity, of color, composition, and format create a kind of resonance and stability and calm for the viewer. Now, what might we see if we could stop reading the image and just look at the composition? Well, there's a very easy way to find out, and it can be just turning the painting upside down. To me, the effect is startling when I first did this with this painting. The tone changes completely, but the groundedness does not. What do I mean by that? Well, the test of any representational painting is its sense of gravity. Do the masses hold together? When we turn this painting upside down, though it doesn't make literal sense, down is still down, the water is still the water, the masses hold together. Why do we feel that so consistently? Well, partly it's this beautiful, clear horizon, modulated but straight and unbroken. We have also these reiterating tiny wavelets, these beautiful, I don't know if you can see them, these beautiful small lines that are interspersed with quiet highlights, almost like notes on a musical scale. The whole thing coheres, it holds together. What's so stunning about turning this upside down, what changes, is its sense of agitation. We go from a quiet boat in the evening to this very agitated cloudscape. Why does that become more obvious to us now that we've turned it upside down? Well, because we're human beings. This occupies the space we would enter if we walked into the painting, and we are sensitive to that. Lastly, when we turn it upside down, what we notice is this very beautifully, delicately painted lighthouse. This is not a bolt of light in the depths of night. This is a gentle, pulsing light that does its job and no more. Let's turn it back around. I can't stand how much I love this painting. I almost can't stand how much I love this painting. So, small boat, big sky, coming of evening, change in the weather. Why isn't this cliche? What keeps this from falling into the cliche of a dramatic moment?
That was great. I mean, Amelia did a wonderful job showing us the history of the Mystic Museum of Art and how it got to where it is today. And it was nice watching Susan right there doing a little class for us, telling us, you know, about paintings and what to look for, things I hadn't thought about before. But there's got to be a whole lot of things going on at the museum.
There's tons going on, Will. But speaking of Susan in the class, I think you can see even from those 4 minutes how she personally gets so excited about it, but how she very logically takes you through how to look at a painting and how to think about a painting. And maybe even for those who are not art lovers or art appreciators, they might become more so by just listening to a person who's as gifted as that, sharing the knowledge. And for those who want to hear more about the art in the museum and art in general, I would invite you to look at our website and explore the many, many resources that are there, one of which is gallery talks. We do, I believe they're monthly. We'll go through a bit of a quiet period through the holidays, but starting up again in January, Susan does do talks in the gallery, picking specific paintings and themes, and they're open to the public, so look for those. Another very interesting offering that we have is something called the Collectors Roundtable, and this is a series of talks for collectors or people who want to collect art about what is involved with that. So those are two of the sort of special, for the art lover and art appreciator, two things I'd suggest you look at our website to learn more about. However, the holidays are coming up, and I thought I could not mention, because it's timely, that the museum store has a wonderful holiday gift market right now, and it'll be open until December 17th. And it's chock full of amazing, beautiful, beautiful gifts for by artists and by artisans. Holiday ornaments, some hand-woven clutch purses and chef's cloths, all kinds of things. But among them are some puzzle, and you'll see there, that's the store, but among them are puzzles by the noted artist and illustrator Garrett Price, and I'm holding up a picture of one of the puzzles. Garrett Price was a famous illustrator, and he did, as you can see, lots of covers for The New Yorker, and he was actually in one of the pictures earlier that we showed of the founders. And there was a group of men and women who Garrett caught. They called themselves the Hanging Committee because they were the people who hung the exhibits in the early days.
Oh, this wasn't a Wild West thing.
It was not a Wild West thing. They were not, I had the same reaction. They were the hangers, the Hanging Committee, to put the art up. And I'm holding the puzzle again because this is a cover he did for the New Yorker magazine showing that Hanging Committee. And it's available in our store along with several other Garrett Price New Yorker covers as puzzles. We also have some nutcrackers and trucks and toys for children that they can paint, all kinds of fun stuff. So I encourage everyone, the holiday gift market is open during regular museum hours, which are 11 to 5, Monday through Sunday. And I think you would be able to find something, and our viewers would be able to find something for everyone on their list.
The museum store and the museum, that's right downtown.
It's right downtown.
You take a left at Bank Store Books.
The corner, Bank Square Books, Main Street and Water Street. If you hung a left onto Water Street from the bookstore and just go past the other famous landmark, Sift Bakery, which is now I used to go a lot. Now it's pretty much an everyday destination for me to pick up a coffee or a tea. A fun thing to do for a day out with family, friends, coming as a tourist would be go to the bookstore, walk down the street, grab yourself coffee or tea, and then head into the museum, walk through the galleries, or do it in reverse. Go to the museum.
They probably don't want you walking in with a coffee into the museum.
No, food and drink is not allowed in the galleries, but do, it makes for a fun day out. Another thing that is really important, obviously our exhibitions are, sort of the cornerstone of any museum. But the other pieces are classes. We have a wide array of classes for kids and adults alike. And I love this picture that's on the screen because it's right smack in the middle of our studio wall. And it says, an artist is not a special kind of person. Every person is a special kind of artist. And I think that's really meaningful. I studied art history and film, but I cannot draw. So I wonder if we can have a look at some of the artists who are our wonderful teachers. This is our roster of just some of our artists. On the right in the pink shirt with no sleeves is our Director of Education, Lavanya. And they help bring out the artist in men, women, children alike. And here's just a few of our kids in one of our studio classes, and then in the gallery themselves, I think we've got that coming up. Another aspect of what we do is community outreach, and we have a whole range of programs for kids in the like in New London schools and the Norwich schools, really an effort to bring kids into the museum to experience an appreciation of art and creation of art that they might not get in school themselves.
Do they like the hamburger more or the art more there?
I can't say, but we've got a group of kids from the New London high schools right now learning how to build models of some of the great architectural buildings of the world. And when that is finished, we're going to take their pictures and display their models in a great exhibit coming up in January. So I invite people to keep an eye out for that. We also invited all of our artists and friends and visitors to paint holiday ornaments for Christmas trees. And we've been doing that. We've been collecting them. There's a batch of them. We're taking those over to Safe Futures, another local nonprofit that helps women. And they are donated for the Safe Futures holiday Christmas tree, which will be auctioned off. And I'm trying to think of some other things. I mean, I think another thing that people should know, of course, is that a museum like this cannot run by itself. We need people to help us. And so anyone who would like to do that is invited to go to our website and look at, how they can maybe make a donation to support us online. You can also call the museum or stop in. But in this season of giving, gifts are always appreciated, because to make it possible to share the art we have with the world and to teach our kids and adults, gifts are helpful.
Oh, that's a great program. I mean, if you're bringing kids in and teaching them how to draw, how to paint,
Yeah.
how to visualize things, that was a great great talk that Susan gave about,
Yeah.
what to look for in a painting. I'd never thought of looking for all those different things, that, the lines and the just the way things match up.
I know. And when she turned it over, and for me, my office is right outside. There's a doorway between me and the studios where the artists are working, and it's really fun. I think Monday afternoons we have kids who are being homeschooled come in, and they get art lessons, and they are so excited about what they do. And we have another program where I can't remember the day of it is, but there's one day a week where anyone can come in between 1 and 5 p.m., go to an easel, set up their work, and just paint. And it's completely free. Just, you're an
Really?
artist, just come in for the afternoon, spend the afternoon. It's delightful. And there's some really cool people who are doing that. Our catalog, I should mention before we stop that our catalog, we're working on our catalog of classes for the winter and spring, and that'll be out by the beginning of the year. So again, I would encourage people to go to the mysticmuseumofart.org website, where everything I've talked about can be found. We'll be quiet and dark in the galleries through the holidays and the beginning of January, but we'll be opening up with some fabulous roster of great exhibitions in next year.
Well, Deb, this has been great. I mean, it's a real pleasure to learn all the different things that Mystic Museum of Art does for the community, how it really helped build Mystic. I mean, Mystic was here, but the museum really helped put it on the map. So
Absolutely, yeah.
So thank you for putting a nautical tale on canvas.
You're welcome, Will, and thanks for having me here. It's been a pleasure.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to Nautical Tales and Nature Trails. We hope you enjoyed the show and wish you the best for the holidays.